Justin Henry here for Bob Parmar. We're going to be talking week 3 of the waiver wire. And P, this is actually going to be an interesting segment because there's a lot of injuries happening right now. First week, we got, there's a few minor injuries, but this week brought some heavy toll, especially at the quarterback position where we see Joe Burrow go down. JJ McCarthy's going to be out for a little bit. We have some question marks here when it comes to who to pick up.
Yeah, no, a lot of unfortunate injuries, like you said. An eventful week for a lot. We do see some people coming up, some breakouts happening. But injuries, yeah, I know you got a lot of you guys are panicking out there with some of the recent injury news. Late Sunday night, some quarterbacks being hurt, even, and whatnot, what have you. Either way, we got your back.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels in jeopardy of missing the game. For sure, we're going to be without JJ McCarthy for 2 to 4 weeks with his ankle. We have Joe Burrow out for 3 months, probably a majority of the fantasy season. So I think what we have to do is kind of remember here, this is a long game with fantasy. There's going to be injuries that happen throughout the year. You're going to need to make pickups. It's important to note you can't always think in long term. You can't always think in short term. It's a good combination of both that helps you win leagues. So, Pete, let's start off, man. Let's get any immediate update, like quarterbacks that we should be picking up right now in wake of these injuries.
Yeah, so I mean, you said it, right? So Jake Browning is the number one person who, as far as a quarterback goes, if you do need a quarterback, is somebody who I would be prioritizing, right? So he came in the second quarter. It didn't look the best. It didn't look great. He still put up 241 yards, two passing touchdowns, and one rushing touchdown. Right. So a lot of people are thinking like he just came out of nowhere, but we've seen this before. So this isn't the first time Joe Burrow has been hurt. In 2013, Jake Browning stepped in for an injured Joe Burrow who was out for the season at that point and really stepped in and performed really well. Right. So in 2023, I meant to say, he averaged 18.9 fantasy points in the games that he played. That was seventh best for that year on a per game basis for the quarterback position. So I would still launch this guy out with confidence that he's still going to perform. I mean, you can't step into a much better position with the weapons that he has, the play calling that he has. Jake Browning is somebody who I would definitely prioritize if you do have an injury at that quarterback position.
The thing is with Jake Browning is he's going to be a QB2 moving forward. The offensive pieces are just too good for him to miss. And even that year that he was throwing for 300 yards a game, it's like Jamar Chase ended up getting hurt, and those were the games he struggled in later. During the time he was a starter, he was a very high-end QB2, back-end QB1 on most weeks. He was throwing for over 300 yards a game. He was averaging over 250 yards a game at that time. So I don't have really a lot of concerns. Maybe he's not Joe Burrow, but if you're looking for a direct replacement long-term, Jake Browning is as good as it gets, and I think this is one of those long-term starters throughout the year. We talked about, band-aids or players to get you through bye weeks. I think if you're missing Joe Burrow, Jake Browning is the guy you have to go get.
100%, 100%. So, and obviously this in 10 team single quarterback leagues, you're going to have an array of quarterbacks you can really choose from that are going to be out there. This is somebody you're going to want to break the bank for if you're in a super flex 12 team league or even a 10 team super flex league. This is somebody who is going to be one of your every week starters in those cases.
Yeah, mainly for Superflex, right? Like, and that's the thing you have to remember for your league, is this a single QB league or a Superflex league? But as far as direct replacements go, if you're missing your quarterback and you want to spend fab, I would say you got to spend about 10 to 15% of your fab just in case the JJ McCarthy owner is going after him, just in case the Jaden Daniels owner is trying to be proactive. I would say just err on the side of caution and make sure you get your guy, especially in Superflex leagues, if you have Joe Burrow. As far as another option at the quarterback position, we are seeing a career resurgence right now from Daniel Jones, my man. Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes. This guy was a backup on the Minnesota Vikings for half the year last season. And, this is one of the things, I think you and I have talked about this on our JN Fantasy page. It's Daniel Jones is a good player. Like, as far as fantasy wise, he has the rushing upside. And I think we're starting to see some of that. The craziest part of this all is that he's turning into what we envisioned Anthony Richardson to be if he was a starter. And they're getting him the goal line work. They're using him like Josh Allen at the goal line. He's throwing for 250 yards and a half. The deep balls are there downfield. So everything that we were hoping that Anthony Richardson would be, Daniel Jones is, and he's paired up with a really good coach in Shane Steichen. They got him the weapons. Jonathan Taylor looks like the elite back that he is. Michael Pittman has bounced back. Josh Downs a good receiver. They drafted Tyler Warren, and we're seeing him look like one of the elite tight ends in the game right now. The downfield threat is there with Alec Pierce. Everything is clicking for Daniel Jones right now. And this isn't a player that I would just say, oh, he had a hot 2 starts. I mean, this was against a Denver defense. It's one of the best in the league, and he still threw for 300 yards against them. So for me, I love Daniel Jones as like a high-end QB2, potentially, P, even a back-end QB1 on some weeks.
You know what? I couldn't agree with you more on this. I mean, what we're seeing from him, his resurgence, just like you're saying, Daniel Jones looks good in this offense. He has, he's making the weapons actually a lot better that he has as well. Challenging that Denver secondary is not, it's no punk, and he's been really challenging those corners with his wide receivers. They're playing man, and he's going after them. And that sneaky rush ability that he has is what I think he can vault him to that like top 12-ish, top 12 to 14 maybe.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's the crazy part is like we've known Danny Dimes to be mobile, right? Coming off the ACL, we didn't get to see that with the Giants. Like people forget it takes a year or two, but Daniel Jones was the top 10 quarterback just a few years ago. Like it's not like he's been that far removed from it. And maybe it's not the rushing. We don't see 50 yards a game, but like the encouraging part is seeing 3 rushing scores in the first 2 weeks. He might be a 10 to 15 rushing touchdown. I don't know if I want to put it there, but like that's in the possibility and realms of outcomes for Daniel Jones. So I think if you're looking for somebody directly right now, that's another player to get. Few questions that come in about the quarterback position, P. Shout out to everybody watching on the Bleacher Report app and those watching on YouTube. Jalix is asking Jake Browning over Caleb or Daniel Jones. So rank those three for me, P. Daniel Jones, Caleb Williams, Jake Browning.
So what I'm seeing right now, I would rank it Daniel Jones, Jake Browning a close second, and then I would go Caleb. I think that Caleb has he has like a learning curve to learn this offense. I think we're going to see a lot better of Caleb Williams a little bit later on, whereas Daniel Jones and Jake Browning are going to be like immediate results here for you.
I think Daniel Jones is the clear pickup here, which is crazy to say. Like, we would never say that. I still think I would go Caleb over Jake Browning, and that might be a little bit of the bias, the pride, the preseason stuff talking, and just the experience, and the fact that Jake Browning's a backup. So I think that's probably clouding my judgment here is just the trust factor with Caleb, even though he's super up and down as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably would still go Caleb over Jake Browning, and I do think that could backfire. So try to trade Devontae Smith. Is this the time to try to trade Devontae Smith? What do you think, P? Like, he didn't have a great game.
Yeah, no. Is it time to try and trade? I think what Andrew's talking about is a little bit of a fear of what's going on and what we're seeing. This is something that I've spoke about all off season, mainly towards AJ Brown, but it can apply to Devonta Smith as well. I think you can try and trade him and feel comfortable with it. I just don't see the need for the Philadelphia Eagles to be a pass heavy team. We can see in the first 2 weeks that they are relying on the run and being successful at it. They just won the Super Bowl playing the same way. The game script is never going to be in favor of these wide receivers. Yeah, they can have spike weeks and whatnot, but the consistency that you're going to be looking for that you'd hoped you've gotten out of him, you're probably not going to see. So I wouldn't trade him right now. I would trade him after he does have a touchdown or a decent week. But yeah, it's red flash of both of them for me.
It's tough because I feel like this offense at some point the passing game got to get there, and it's not like Jalen Hurts is going to throw for under 2,000 yards. Like that would be wild in my opinion. So I think there's bounce back room for AJ Brown and for Devontae Smith, and we know like Devontae Smith is a 1,008 type player, so it's tough to hold on to. But if you can, I think if you can maximize like somebody in your name as somebody in your league is a name hoarder and they love names, like maybe you can get it, trade them. But I don't know. I feel like Devontae Smith will see more out of him at least coming soon. Real quick, one from YouTube before I get back into it. Wan'Dale Robinson or Alec Ayomanor both seem promising moving forward. Robinson with 8 targets minimum the last 2 weeks. So Wan'Dale Robinson specifically, we'll get into Alec Ayomanor a little bit later. But Wan'Dale Robinson, where do you rank Wan'Dale Robinson? He's a top 10 receiver right now in fantasy and PPR leagues. Do you think this is a 1 week flash in the pan, or do you think this is a consistent role from him now moving forward?
Yeah, I don't think he's a 1 week flash in the pan. I think he is the number two target there in New York. I mean, look, there's not every week Russ is going to throw for 450, right? But he still will have those breakout games, and he's going to be somebody consistent. He's somebody who's definitely, in my opinion, worth picking up and worth having on your roster for bye weeks, maybe your occasional flex, or maybe something that you can just add into a trade offer to kind of boost the value of your trade. So I'm definitely a fan of having him on the roster.
Yeah, the only concern I have for Wan'Dale Robinson is that typically we've seen him be like a 5 catch for 50 guy, 6 catch for 60 guy,
Yeah.
7 catches for 30 guy. Like he's very much like but this role has changed with Russ. Russ will try things downfield a little bit more. And their offseason talk was that they were using him a little bit more downfield. So I would buy into it. He's a tough player to start though on a week-to-week
Yeah, and
basis.
how long is Russ going to be the starter there too? That's a question.
Right. Right, right. Moving on, P. Obviously, we're talking receiver here. Any other receivers you got that we should be picking up this week?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Troy Franklin, right? So, look, he had one hell of a game, week two, 9 targets, 8 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. So, what I think from Troy Franklin, I think we're really witnessing a true second year breakout for him. So, he definitely looks good this second week here. He's actually the number two wide receiver in this option in this offense, as well as the number two, option, whether you're wide receiver, pass catcher, whatever it is. He's really breaking out in that fashion, out targeting both Marvin Mims and Evan Ingram's for that number two spot. So we've seen in week one he went from a snap share of around close to 60%, jump all the way to week two to 83%. Right. So I'm really excited about Troy Franklin because he is a burner. You can see a lot of the downfield efforts, but they are creating kind of routes for him. They're targeting him in the screen game as well. And a lot of the time, a lot of people are going to forget that he and Bo Nix actually have a connection, right? So going back to connection in Oregon, where both of those guys set records in the Pac-12. Troy Franklin specifically, receiving yards and receiving touchdowns, and that connection is just going to flourish in the NFL.
Yeah, obviously the connection helps, and there was a lot of hype about Troy Franklin last year. It's good to see him kind of get his flowers this year. I would be a little hesitant though because he becomes one of those players where I would never start Troy Franklin. Just being honest, even though he's the wide receiver 14 right now, he had the touchdown, and he had a banged up secondary. That's the one thing coming into this game. We knew they were down a couple pieces in the secondary. So I think he kind of reminds me of like if you drafted Marvin Mims, that's about where I would have him now, especially with Evan Ingram not really being a focal point in this offense. I would be very hesitant about playing Troy Franklin on a week-to-week basis is my only thing. I think during bye weeks he'll be serviceable, but I do think for those with deeper leagues, go right ahead, pick up Troy Franklin. I'm not mad at it. Another receiver, if you are looking for help at the flex spot or maybe like wide receiver three, is Romeo Doubs. So now Romeo Doubs is one of those players where we see him out there all the time and he's on free agents and sometimes he'll be thrown away for the next hot item, but he's kind of a solidified player in this offense. We saw him catch a touchdown on Thursday Night Football. And one of the things about Romeo Doubs is that he's been a consistent red zone threat for Jordan Love. And so, last year he didn't have the year that he wants, but he's in a contract year this year. And I think with Jaden Reed expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks, we now know, okay, there's another piece in this passing game. In the one area though, is that we've seen Matthew Golden struggle. They haven't been able to connect on the deep balls. And in order to move the ball downfield, have a chain mover, we've seen Romeo Doubs be that consistently over the years. I don't think there's a whole lot of upside here. This is more of a floor play, but I do think Romeo Doubs is worth a look, especially because I could see his volume increasing here over the next couple weeks with Jaden Reed out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know about Romeo. I'll let somebody else waste a pick on him or waste a waiver priority or whatever it may be. A few things I know from this Green Bay offense. And when it comes to the wide receiver position, it seems like every other week that there's somebody else who's breaking out for them. The one consistent pass catcher that we do see really is a tight end Tucker Kraft. So, I see your point with the injury and whatnot, and Romeo Doubs is probably one of the more veteran wide receivers there. But I don't know if I'd get behind that one.
Yeah, just another option for those with struggling receivers too. A lot of the mid-round receivers are kind of struggling right now, especially to be consistent. And he may not be, like I said, the upside piece that you want, but if you're looking, you know what I'm saying, for options, this might be the play. So, especially with a guy like Travis Hunter. Marvin in the chat says Travis Hunter worth starting. And so now we're kind of seeing, all right, like Travis, what's going on, bro? You're a first round pick. We're not seeing the results. Talk to me. Are you in or out on Travis Hunter right now as a starter for your fantasy team?
Oh no, I'm definitely out on him. I don't think that if Travis Hunter was solely a wide receiver, he would have went as high in the draft as he did. He was drafted number two overall because of his dual threat. He can play both offense and defense. I see that there is some polishing for him, for me to consistently like think about starting him. Right now, it's between like, do I even want to keep him on my bench or pick up some of these other guys we're talking about? That's kind of where I'm at. I know that, and the reason why I say that is because I know eventually he's going to catch on and he may be a little bit more consistent. But are those splashes that he's going to have where he may have a big week? He may, every third or fourth game. Is that something that I want to risk? Right. So, and for me, I don't. I'm good.
I mean, you took him as your wide receiver three in most leagues. For me, I'm waiting on Travis Hunter, maybe not starting him right now. I think it's okay to leave him on your bench, especially in those non-PPR leagues. That first week he had, 8 targets, so I think I'm willing to see a little bit more out of Travis Hunter. But I get the hesitation on starting him. If you have a better option, start him.
Hmm.
Is Rashad White good to start? I'm good off Rashad White starting right now. Even though he scored that late touchdown, he had a nice role yesterday. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think it's a valid question. I would rather start somebody else than Rashad White. Would you drop Justin Fields for Daniel Jones?
No, I wouldn't drop Justin Fields for Daniel Jones. I think that I like Daniel Jones, and I think Daniel Jones may present a little bit more consistency, but I think Justin Fields' upside is a little higher than Danny Dimes. So yeah, it's close, and I got to give respect to Danny Dimes, but I'm not dropping Fields for him.
Yeah, I think people are going to drop Justin Fields a little prematurely, like
Yeah.
just because of the concussion and he didn't play well. So I'm definitely not doing that. Terrible game for Justin Fields, but we know with Justin Fields, the ups and downs are there. Are we dropping Cortland Sutton for Troy Franklin?
No, we're not dropping Cortland Sutton for Troy Franklin. No.
No.
Cortland Sutton is the number one there. Cortland Sutton's going to have his car. He's the number one option there. So no, don't go, don't get that crazy.
Shout out to YouTube for kicking it with us, obviously as well. Wandell, we asked this one already. Jaden Reed, what's good, man? You said Bleacher Report, you're the best YouTube. Appreciate you. Is it time to drop Caleb Johnson? It's been time to drop Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson could go. He could go.
I think the Steelers may consider it after what he did on special teams, but nah, man, it's tough. It's tough.
You just mentioned Troy Franklin.
Mhm.
Are you picking up Troy Franklin or Rondell Robinson? Because you talked highly of both.
Yeah, I talked highly of both, and I'm picking up Troy Franklin. I think that there's something to be said about that connection that goes back to those college days. They drafted Bo Nix, and then Bo Nix campaigned for Troy Franklin to be drafted there. I think that speaks volumes. I trust Sean Payton's offense and what he's going to do with those wide receivers more so than Wandell Robinson.
You said trust Sean Payton in the same sentence. I don't trust Sean Payton. Give me Wandell Robinson. I don't
Okay.
trust Sean Payton. Hey, Sean Payton will switch things up. We'll see an all running attack one week. We will see Evan Ingram featured heavily one week. I do not trust Sean Payton at all. So let's move on to the next one, P. Obviously, there's some players, that are starting to get in new roles right now.
Yeah.
Talk to me about some high upside potential picks here that, maybe you think really highly of.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes a little bit. I don't think too highly, but Bashal Tutin is somebody who's definitely worth considering when we're looking at this waiver wire, right? So for a few reasons, mainly. So the Jags, they drafted him in the fourth round, and he had definitely a decent game. We know the Jags prior to week two, they traded Tank Bigsby, which opened up a bigger role for Bashal Tutin. 8 rushes, 42 yards, 2 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown. He's under 50% owned right here, which you can see. He's stepping into that immediate running back two role on that team. And when you're looking at Bashal Tutin, ultimately he has a lot of talent. He has a lot of physical talent. He's a bigger back that does run, at a 4.3 speed on the combine. Drafted in the fourth round by Liam Cohen. This is a new coach that's really picking up this, putting pieces together for his future. So, the reason why I would preemptively pick him up, even after a subpar game, we've seen his snap share definitely go up, and that's good. But if you think about last year when Liam Cohen was with the Bucks, we seen the emergence of Bucky Irving and in that Rashad White role, right? So there is a chance that we could see something similar with Bashal Tutin, and this move solely is to be ahead of the curve when it comes to that. So if you have a bench spot, pick him up, put him there because it can definitely pay dividends later on in the future in a few weeks.
Later on down the line, huh? Like when it's time to win your league, I guess, huh? So I hear you on the Bashal too, and you know what I mean. It's one of those players where I think you'd have to wait on him. He's a good preemptive pickup. Reminds me of one of the higher to mid end backup running backs. Like that's where he is, and I think he'd be in a better spot if something happens with Travis Etienne. Not mad at the pickup here. But we got to see the snaps increase. Right now, he's playing under 30% of the snaps. You want to see that increase before you start putting him into your flex position. Probably won't see a lot of usage until bye weeks.
Yeah, and just another tip here. When we're playing fantasy, right? This is fantasy football. It's really those teams that are ahead of the curve that you see often in the fantasy playoffs and you see often dominating in the fantasy playoffs. All I'm saying is this can be one of those moves. So it would be remiss if I didn't bring it up to you guys.
Let me ask you this. So you have Bashal Tutin. You got a struggling running back like Isaiah Pacheco. Are you dropping Isaiah Pacheco to go pick up the player with more upside in Tutin, or are you waiting on Isaiah Pacheco to play his role the right way?
It's funny. I don't know about if I'm dropping Isaiah Pacheco just because to drop him, somebody who invested like a fifth or sixth round draft pick this early is going to be a little, you shouldn't do it. I would definitely look for somebody else to drop for a Bashal Tutin. So to answer your question with that, no, but I'm sure that there's somebody on your bench who you can find a drop for him.
Yeah, and it's tough right now with running backs. Obviously a lot of the top running backs are doing well. We've had a couple injuries, not a whole lot. Aaron Jones is out. So there's not a whole lot of room for like this splash running back. There's not a lot out there. Tootin is the option for that. But as far as receivers go, there have been some unheralded receivers, and one of them is Alec Manor. And Alec Manor is one of those players that was kind of hyped up this offseason. Obviously, he had that rivalry with Travis Hunter, and we got to see him in that. But with Cam Ward, it's like we didn't know what we were getting. And I mean, we saw the flashes all weekend long. There was some hype during the offseason, but he has a big frame, big body, and he's seen 6 targets and 7 targets over the first 2 games. Caught the touchdown, incredible touchdown, by the way. Caught the touchdown from Cam Ward. And this is one of those offenses that's going to get better as the season goes on. And so while he's a rookie, while he's second in line behind Calvin Ridley, he's also a couple of plays away from potentially taking over a bigger lion's share of this workload. Like if Calvin Ridley doesn't start to play the role the right way, he does continue to struggle. Maybe we see A.O. Manor start to have his role increased. Right now, he's only 13% rostered. And I think that's going to change after this week. So this is one of those options that maybe doesn't go in your starting lineup right now. And you talked about it, Pete. Later on down the season can become a lot more valuable, especially when teams start to play their younger players. I think this is a player we will be talking about in bye weeks. And for right now, deserves to be on benches, but could enter flex territory here sooner than later if things click for not just him, but Cam Ward as well.
You know who this reminds me a lot of? And
Say
if
it.
if we look if we look last year, it's the same team, similar player, Nick Westbrook-Akeem, who we talked about a lot last year on this show, and he was really coming up with these splashes and ended up being a really kind of like a consistent player, even though his target share wasn't as hot. So I'm with you on that. This is somebody that this team drafted, and it's paying dividends so far.
I really think Cam Ward has to play better. That's the key to this all. But if Cam Ward does take a step up, and his team's probably going to be playing from behind a lot, like I can see A.O. Manor having a strong second half of the year.
Hmm.
All right, a couple more questions that came in. A.O. Manor or Kayshon Boutte? Which one are we picking up? Because Kayshon Boutte obviously had a strong week one. And came out and himself and said, I was a first round draft grade. Then had one catch last week for the touchdown. Who are you picking up? Kayshon Boutte or Alec Manor?
I'm gonna go AO Manor. I'm gonna go
Think
AO.
so.
Just keep it short and sweet.
Are you worried about Scary Terry though?
Not at all worried about Scary Terry. Listen, oftentimes when players hold out, like the wide receivers, when they hold out and really sign like that first week of the season, they tend to have slow starts. We've seen it a little bit last season, and just in the history of wide receivers who do hold out. This is what happens. Give him a few more weeks, and then you're going to see Scary Terry maybe not be as what he was last year, maybe a step down because they do have a little bit more weapons. But to answer your question, no, I'm not
Yes.
scary for playing Terry.
He's a wide receiver too. This is
Yeah.
why he's a wide receiver two and not a consistent wide receiver one, even though he finished there last year. The ups and downs that come with the wide receiver twos are there. Need a running back until Amarion Hampton shows up. P, do you think Amarion Hampton's going to show up within the next couple weeks, or is this a player we should be panicking about?
Nah, definitely don't panic about him. Listen, this is a guy who's a rookie. They didn't credit the fumble to him last night, but he has not been showing up. But a lot of rookie running backs really haven't been showing up. That we're seeing the same thing with Genty, right? So what we know about this team, and when you start to get into the thought process of, oh, I have Hampton, oh, he's a bust. Should I drop him? Should I trade him? Just remember that this team is a heavy running team. This team, he really is a first round draft pick, so they're going to force it. And he's a rookie. He'll get it. It'll click. He may not live up to that top 10, top 12 that you have hoped, but he'll definitely be far more serviceable. Give it by like week 4. Trust me, by week 4, if you hold on to him, you don't trade him. He's actually a pretty good trade target, a pretty good buy low target. If we could get that segment on here,
We should get that segment on here.
lace us up with that segment. We'll lace you guys up. So, but yeah, don't be afraid of him. Definitely don't be
A few
afraid.
more rapid fire. I think Najee's going to be a little bit more involved over the first part of the year. If we see Hampton, it'll probably be in the second half of the year. I do agree. A sneaky name to pick up, Tajay Spears. I think Tajay Spears coming off IR. We haven't seen Tony Pollard look the best. I think that's a sneaky pickup. Real quick, one from YouTube. Is Tank Bigsby worth keeping as doomsday scenario in case Saquon misses time or safe to cut bait? I think Tank Bigsby, he could go. Caleb
Safe to
Johnson,
cut.
he could go. This is the time of year where if it didn't pan out for some of your younger players and they've been zeros or less than tens on your benches, I have no problem with dropping them. If you have Herbert P, are you dropping Kyler Murray?
In a single quarterback league, I feel comfortable with it. In a single quarterback league, I think we're seeing Herbert break out. I think this is going to be a huge year for Herbert. We've talked about this in the preseason. I've talked about this in the preseason. And in the single quarterback 10-team league, there's no reason to really hold two
Two
quarterbacks.
quarterbacks. It's tough.
Don't need to.
It's tough. I would probably keep Murray or try to trade him maybe to the person that had Joe Burrow,
Mm.
JJ McCarthy, or maybe somebody that's been like underperforming. What about Cup or Hollywood Brown? I think this is an easy one. Hollywood Brown.
Give it to
And
me,
then the
Hollywood
last one that
Brown.
came in that we're gonna get for today is Tony Pollard or Bashal Tootin. I think you're still rocking with Tony Pollard right now.
100%. 100%.
All right,
So, yeah.
so that wraps up our week 3 waivers. On our list, we have Jake Browning at quarterback, Daniel Jones at quarterback, Troy Franklin at receiver for the Denver Broncos, Romeo Dobbs is a floor play, kind of a flex play for Green Bay Packers, Bashal Tootin at running back for some upside later, and Alec A.M. Manor for some
Mhm.
upside in the second half of the year as well. Any parting thoughts, P, before we get off and as teams go into the waiver wire tonight?
Yeah, so don't panic. If you're starting 0-2, we have a lot of slow starters that people have drafted in the first and second round, so don't panic. Another honorable mention that I want to drop, I want to make sure I drop in the show, Hunter Renfrow. Don't sleep on him. He's a safety blanket over there at wide receiver, getting a lot of targets. Definitely don't sleep on him.
Oh, and lastly too, if you're looking for an immediate pickup, Cam Scatterbo might have been dropped by somebody who was a little pissed off. I don't know that he's the greatest running back, but I do think he's serviceable for somebody that is in need of a running back to get fantasy points in case one of their stars is struggling.
100%.
That does it for Bob Parmar, myself, Justin Henry. We will see you guys on the next Bleacher Report Waiver Wire episode. Peace out.